Welcome, Crafty Friends. Annie Collins here for Pajama Crafter Stamps. Today we're creating a non-traditional Valentine's Day card. Let's go over the products I used. I used Bruno Bee Keeper Stamp Set. This stamp set has 14 images and 4 sentiments. It has this tree with the hive, Bruno facing forward and sideways. It has a standing hive, and it has bees, birds, flowers, and other little jars and such. It has sentiments as sweet as honey, be brave. We're meant to be, and you're my honeybee. Today we're using We're My Honeybee, Profile Bruno, and the tree with the hive. I will have this stamp set linked for you in the description below. We're going to use our Marshmallow Cardstock. We're using the A2 size panels. And then from the Bee's Knees paper pack, we're pulling out this pattern paper. Both have the honeycomb, but one has bees, one is plain. We're using the plain honeycomb side. We're using the Pebble Beach cardstock. This cardstock is so pretty and it's so beautifully textured. This is the large 8x10 size. I'm going to pull out a sheet here. Can you see the little texture in this cardstock? I don't know if my camera's picking it up and doing it justice, but it is so lovely. So we're going to use that for our background, as part of our background. Let me just try to put it away. Sorry. Here's my Marshmallow cardstock. I'm going to set this aside. So here are the rest of the components for our card. I have some grass that I've die cut with from my stash. And here is our Bee's Knees paper. And it's going to layer on top of this yellow cardstock that I've used a scallop die to cut on top of our Pebble Beach. There's the yellow cardstock that I cut the heart from. I'll use that as a layering mat. And of course, our card base. Here it is, our card base, which is an A2 size card base. Now, I came up with this idea while watching TV, so I grabbed a scrap piece of paper and drew my little sketch. Then I remembered that Justine told us that we have these card sketch printables. These are available for you if you sign up for the newsletter at Pajama Crafter Stamps. Go to our website, sign up for the email newsletter, and you receive this as a thank you gift. It's perfect. It has a box for you to do your sketch. You can write your measurements in this one, any notes, a little area for you to list what products, any colors you're using, little swatch boxes, and more. So from here on out, I'll be using those. I printed myself a few stack of those to have for that. Now that we've gone over everything, I have some gold embellishments, my Memento ink, my stamp press, and I'm going to use VersaFine for my sentiment. I'm going to clear all this out of our way here in a second so we can get to stamping our images. So I have my images here in my little stamp press, my stamping platform, not my stamp press. This is my Marshmallow cardstock, and I'm using this smaller size. Marshmallow cardstock comes in 2 sizes, A2 pre-cut panels and the bigger 8x10 size, or 8.5 by 11. I can't remember. I'll link them both for you in the description box below. So I have my tree, and as you can see, my tree is not up against the edge. I'm giving myself a little extra space because I'm going to cut off any extra space that I need later. I have Bruno and my little trio of bumblebees, even though I only will be using one. This is my sentiment. I'm just trying to stick it on here because I don't want to lose it. I will stamp it after. So I'm going to start by stamping our images. I'm going to use Memento ink because it is alcohol friendly, and this is in Tuxedo Black. And since I'll be using alcohol markers to color my images, I want an alcohol friendly ink. Using my frog press here to get even coverage across all my images. So Bruno here, like I said, there's 2 versions of Bruno. Profile Bruno, which we'll be using today, and then front facing Bruno, and he has like a little, I don't know what you call those, it's a little fogger, I guess that's what it's called. It's a fogger. It puts the little bees to sleep when you do a little fog. And he's got his little mesh nets on. I didn't use that one. I wanted Bruno Profile because he's going to be giving some love to our bees. I have a little die cut heart I'm going to place in his hands. All right, so I'm going to stamp our sentiment really quick here with VersaFine Onyx ink, Onyx black ink. This is a great for sentiments because it's nice detail ink, but you use whatever ink you prefer. This is not an alcohol friendly ink. VersaFine is great for watercoloring, but not for alcohol coloring. That's why I have two different inks. All right, so I've zoomed in a bit so that you can see that what I'm coloring. I fussy cut all my images out and they're ready to go. As you can see, my tree looks a little different, and that's because I need extra so that it goes around my heart. We're going to start with our tiny little bee, and for the bee, I'm going to start with a BG 1. I think that's what I used, and that is for our wings. The wings are shaped like little hearts, which I think is adorable. And then I'm just doing simple coloring, no two-tone or anything, just one color out. So I have a yellow, and then I pulled out the CG7, which is the Cool Gray 7. It's too dark. So I changed my mind and went and got the Cool Gray 5 because the little bee has a cute little smile face, and I didn't want to cover it up. So I'm going to color those little stripes in, and now our bee is done. So I'm going to set it aside. Look how cute that is. And he gets stamped out in a trio, but I only needed one bee, so I just saved the other ones in the packaging. So for Bruno, I'm going to use some brown markers. I used the OR 3.4, OR 3.7, and OR 3.8. Those are the colors I'll use for Bruno. And I'm also going to bring in a little bit of rose colored, which is R 0.2. That I'm going to use for his little cheeks and for the inside of his ear. I know it's hard to see, but there is a little inner part of his ear. I will redo his cheek afterwards because it gets blended out a bit. I'll do it again. That's optional, not necessary. So I'll start with the OR 3.4, and I do and completely color him except for his nose, which I'll do with a darker color. So I'm just doing simple coloring here, filling in the area, and then I'll go in with the darkest to put in my shadowy spots, and then I'll go in with my mid marker, which is the OR 3.7. So this bear is so cute. I like his little roly body, his cute little tail. I think it's just adorable. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting in the shadowy parts here with the OR 3.8, which is my darkest marker. I know it's some people call it the scary dark. It can be. You're looking at it and you're like, oh boy, that's a strong line, or shadowy, but it will blend out, as you will see. I also use this marker to create little dots on his belly and on his back. Not needed, it's just for texture. I like adding little dots to things. I do it either with with the alcohol marker or with a gel pen. I do it to a lot of the things I color. It's a thing. I don't know. All right, so now I'm blending that out with the OR 3.7. And I'll keep doing that. And then I'll grab the lightest marker and blend this all out again. Except here I made a boo-boo. I grabbed the darkest marker by accident and I colored this back arm here too dark. But it's okay because I'm going to add a heart on there and it just casts a little bit more of a shadow. So I'm not worried about it. This all blends out and dries back. Alcohol markers dry pretty quickly. But when you first put them on, sometimes while they're wet, they look a little darker than they end up being at the end. All right, so we're done, except I will bring in my red again for his cheeks. And again, with the little bit on the dots, I'll redo those. We move on to his hat. I have two colors here, two yellow markers, YO 2.5 and YO 2.2. 2.5 I use for the brim and for the shadowing, and then the rest, the other YO 2.2, I use for the majority of the hat. I'm going to do the little dots again, add a little bit more, and get the R marker for the cheeks. And now Bruno is done. I'm going to set him to the side. And we're going to work on our tree. We're going to start with the hive. I'm going to leave those same yellow markers out. And then I'm going to bring in a mid-tone one, which is YO 2.3. I start out with my lightest and I color the entire hive with that. And then I'll go in with the darkest and emphasize those lines in the hive just to, bring in that nice texture. And then I'll take the mid-tone one and bring in the shadowy parts. There we go. And that'll add that just from the edges and leaving the center light. That what that does is create more of that dimension, making the hive look 3D or curved as it is in real life. So we're done with that, putting those markers away. And then this cool gray 7 that I brought in earlier for the bee that I didn't like, I'm going to use to color the opening of the hive, or the doorway, so to speak, of the hive. For my leaves, I'm bringing in 2 shades of green, G0.1 and G0.4. For the majority of the leaves, I'm going to do it with the G0.1, the lightest, but I'm going to add a few of them, just the G0.4, the darkest. The darkest I'm putting toward closest to the branches. Now, I'm going to color all the leaves, but I'm not going to use all the leaves. Since I wasn't sure how much of the tree was going to be cut off, I figured I better color all of it and then we'll just go from there. Because I wasn't sure how much I would cut off and, once I put it on the heart. So I color all my leaves and then I extend any leaves that needed to be extended. There we go, like that one there. That's it for that. And then I bring in some browns for our tree trunk. I forget to put the caps on screen for the tree. What I used were OR 4.4, OR 4.7, and OR 4.8. I start out with the lightest, and as you see, I did a little bit of a curve there because I'm thinking, oh, that's going to be enough for the heart. It's not, but I still went ahead and did that. And then I start out with the lightest, and then I go in with some shading areas, and then I do some doodling on my tree just to add a little texture to the bark. Because everything else has texture and the tree trunk is kind of flat, so I just wanted to add some. So I drew some lines. I do a little knot in there right here, as you can see, just going with my marker in like that circular, just to create a knot in the tree, just for some texture. I do add some more of the darkest color for where the shadowing is. Here I am following the same thing, the same little circle, and then I'll blend it all back out here in a second. I do it one more time with my mid-tone, filling any spots that I missed, which I did. In the top, I missed a few spots. And then I take my my lightest marker, and blend that all out, which I will need one more time. You'll see here in a sec. And I didn't color the grass part because I cut off most of the grass part. And it won't show because I have die cut grass that I'm going to layer on top. So I don't worry about it. All right, so I will zoom out here in a second. There we go. And bring in the rest of the components for our card. So here it is. Here's Bruno. He has some foam adhesive behind him. That's the little heart that I die cut for Bruno to hold. Our little bee and our tree trunk, our tree holding the hive. Now, I put a foam adhesive behind the hive only. That's the only thing I want popped up. I want our tree to be adhered directly to the heart. So I'm going to do that. I'm sorry I'm off screen. In order to make sure things are straight, I have to bring them closer to myself or go right over it. And then you just see my hair, the back of my head, which is not fun. All right. So anything excess or extra, I will cut off. I'm just going to follow the die cut heart and trim it off. I'm trying to decide, do I want those leaves to extend past the heart or stay contained within the heart? And I decided I want everything to stay contained within the heart. So I cut off any extra leaves. So let me show you. Let me move Bruno over. Do you see that little bit there? That's still white. So I just need to color that in so it matches the rest of my tree. Now that that's colored and our tree's all the way done, we're going to then adhere everything else. I went ahead and colored that little bit of grass that was sticking out there. I did that. It wasn't necessary because the die cut grass covers it, but just in case, I went ahead and colored it. I'm going to use Bruno as placement. Just want to make sure he is where he needs to be. So I'm going to adhere this portion of the grass. I'm going for the tallest part here. And again, I'll flip over and trim away anything extra. There we go. Now I know that Bruno will fit there nicely. And I'm going to use him again as my placement. I want him to live right here. And I'm going to just lift his little legs. Well, I was trying to pick him up, but I can't get him up. So I'm going to lift just his little legs, and I'll slide this portion of the grass here to cover the bottom portion of our heart, like so. Again, flip it over and trim away any of the extra. This is a good way to do it, or you can, before you adhere Bruno, you can adhere your grass and then run it through the die, the heart die again. Either way would work. For Bruno, I have a little heart that I die cut for him from the same yellow cardstock that we have as our layering. There we go. And I put that in his hand. He's bringing some love to the bees, and the bees bring him love by giving him honey. So here's our sentiment. I'm going to put it right above Bruno. And I haven't decided if I'm going to cut off the sentiment, keeping it contained within the heart yet. At first, I thought I'd let it extend over, and then quickly I realized I don't want it extending over, and I'll trim that off. So I start trimming it here, and then there we go. So I need to trim a little bit more. Sorry, I'm off screen again. To get properly trimmed, I need to pull a little bit closer. So there's our sentiment, and I don't want to lose my little bee, so I'm going to move it. So on here, I used a little die from my stash that indents a little heart trail. I'm going to put the bee on the other end of that little heart trail. So I'm going to adhere the Pebble Beach cardstock onto that yellow cardstock that I've die cut all my hearts from. It's, as you can see, it was gutted. I'm going to adhere that. I've trimmed down my Pebble cardstock about 1/8 of an inch so that you have just that little bit of yellow showing through. I'm going to then adhere all of this onto our card base, and don't catch it. I wish I would have, because I adhere this slightly crooked, and I'll have to peel this up and fix it in a bit. I will do that after I adhere everything. Sometimes you catch it right away, sometimes you don't. So here I'm placing our little heart. There we go. And I'll place the bee right there. The bee has a little bit of foam tape on it as well, and he gets right there at the end of that little heart trail. And here's where I noticed, oh darn it, my panel is crooked. So luckily with liquid glue, you have a few minutes that you can, it's not a lot, like about a minute, to move things. So I was able to peel it up and put it on there. There we go. Fix that. All right, so now I'm going to add our finishing touches with this few gold gems. I place one under the sentiment, one by our little bee trail, and then a little cluster of 3 towards the bottom. And then our card will be done. Of course, any bling is optional. If you're not into that, you don't have to put it on your card. And I think we're done. And I'm using our embellishment wand, and I hold my embellishment in our embellishment tray. So here is our completed card. I'll go over the products I used once again. I used the Pebble Beach cardstock for our background. The Marshmallow cardstock is where we stamped our images on. The Bee's Knees paper pack, and then Bruno the Bee Keeper. I will have everything linked for you in the description box below. Thank you for being here. I hope you found some inspiration.